ألف باء تاء ثاء جيم حاء خاء دال ذال راء زاي سين شين صاد ضاد طاء ظاء عين غين فاء قاف كاف لام ميم نون هاء واو ياء أ باء تاء ثاء جاء حاء خاء داء ذاء راء زاء ساء شاء صاء ضاء طاء ظاء عاء غاء فاء قاء كاء لاء ماء ناء هاء واء ياء إي بي في ثي جي حي خي دي ذي ري زي سي شي صي ضي طي ضي عي غي في قي كي لي ني ني هي وي يي أو بو تو ثو جو حو خو دو ذو رو زو سو شو صو ضو طو ظو عو غو فو قو كو لو مو نو هو غو يو.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now the discussion today will be about short vowels in the Arabic language. Unlike English, where the vowels are made from the letters of the alphabet, in Arabic we have three distinct signs for vowels. I have written them down on the left side, and they are Dhamma, Fatha, and Kasra. So I've written the letter Noon, which has the N sound, and I'm going to be writing a Dhamma on top of the Noon here. This is how it is written. It's like a small wow, and it has the U sound. So the way you would pronounce this is Nu. Now, secondly, we have the Fatha, and the way this is written is like a slanted line on top of the letter. And this haraka, or this short vowel, has the A sound. the way we would pronounce the noon with the fatha would be na. Lastly, we have the kasra. Now, with the kasra, it's written in the same way that a fatha is written. The difference being it is below the letter and it has an e sound. So that will be pronounced as mi. Okay, so let's begin first of all with the fatha, which has the a sound, like the A in English. So in front of us, we have the word cat. And what I've done is I've transliterated it into Arabic. So we have here the kaf, which has the k sound, like the K in English, with a fatha on top, followed by a ta. And that ta would have a sukoon. We'll speak about this in a future lesson, inshallah. But the way you pronounce this is quite straightforward. It's one syllable. It's cat. Now, just a point about how you read a word. In English, you start from the left side and you move to the right. In Arabic, you move in an upwards direction and you move to the left side. So from the right to the left. So you would pronounce the letter with the haraka on top and then continue on to the next letter. So the vowels are either on top or on the bottom. Next word is the word back. And that's how it's written in Arabic. Now, one thing you notice with fatha is that when you say the a sound, your mouth is opened. A. And interestingly, the word fatha comes from a word to mean to open. So anyway, let's get back and look at this word here. Now this word is actually a verb. So let us try to pronounce this word. So the first letter we have is the jim. It has the j sound. So the jim with the fatha would be ja. Second letter is the lam. It has it's similar to the L sound in English. Oo. So the lam with the fatha on top is la. So let's read both those letters together. Jala. Jala. Now the final letter is a sin. And that has the S sound, similar to in English, the S sound. That with the fatha would be sa. The complete verb will be read jalasa, which means he sat. And notice they're all short vowels. Jalasa, not jalasa. No, jalasa. We'll get to the long vowels later on, inshallah. Let's get to Dhamma, which is the U sound, like how we have either the O or the U in English. Okay, so we have the word book. Book. Now in English there's a double O. Here it's pronounced like a Dhamma. So we say book, that's a short vowel. Even though in English it's written as two O's. If you want to transliterate the word book, that's how you do it. Very simple. Now if we look at this word here, put. Put, that's a short vowel. That's the Dhamma, right? In Arabic actually, there is no P sound. So when you hear people mentioning words with P, you actually hear Arabs use the ba, the B sound, not the P sound. Now you will find P used by some Arabs, although it's not actually in classical Arabic. It's part of the dialect. Sometimes certain sounds are used that are different to classical Arabic. Okay, now we come to another word. Let's try to pronounce this word. So we have this sin, the ba, and the lam, and there's two dhammas there, one on the sin and one on the ba. So let's first of all look at the sin with the u sound, it's su. Then the ba with the dhamma, it's bu. And then we have the lam. And we assume that the lam is a glottal stop, a sukoon. It would be pronounced as subul. Subul. This is a plural, actually, of a word that means a path. So subun means paths. Now we get to the kasra. The kasra is the E sound. If you remember, the kasra is like the fatha, but it's written at the bottom of the letter. So let's look at this word, sit. If you want to transliterate that into Arabic, it would be as follows. Another word is rim. Rim. If we wanted to transliterate that, it would be in this way. Now, just a side note, there is a slight difference between these two because they are different languages. So we say rim. There's no emphasis on the R sound. In Arabic, there's more emphasis on it. Rim. And this is something that non-Arabs will need to get used to. When you say the ra, it's done with strength. Rim. As opposed to rim. Okay? Now, finally, let's look at this word. This uses all the three harakat that we spoke about. The Dhamma, the Fatha, and the Kasra. And we can pronounce this, inshallah. And let's see. So the first is the kaf. So it's ku. Then it's the ta with the kasra. So ku ti. Ku ti. And then finally the ba with the fatha. So it would be ku ti ba. Kutiba. Kutiba means it was prescribed or it was authorized. Like, for example, we have the ayah, Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Fasting has been prescribed for you. Kutiba. Okay, so that explains the short vowels. So we have 3 videos. Each of them go through all the letters with these 3 different vowels. So please listen to that, repeat it if you have to, so that you can get the sound correct. Okay, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about the lack of a vowel, which in Arabic is known as sukoon. Now here we have letter fa. I want to show you how sukoon is written. Now when we actually represent no vowels, we don't just leave the letter without any marks. Sukoon actually is represented by either like a small circle on top or with this mark here. So you will find both used. Now, let's look at some examples. So if you remember the last video, we went through these words and I transliterated the words into Arabic. That's cat, both in Arabic and English. Now here, we have a haraka there with the kaf. And then notice there's actually a stop on the letter T. So we say cat. So the T doesn't have any vowel associated with it. It's actually just a stop on the T. So in this case, we would actually put a sukoon there. Cat. If we give it actually a mark, for example, a fatha, it'd be kata or katu or kati. Similarly, the word back. So it's back. So there's a sukoon there as well. And we have the word book. Same thing. Book, there's a sukoon there. Now, I also want to mention, so here the sentence reads, خرج الرجل من البيت. And you stop there. Now, the last letter has a kasra. When we actually stop, we give it a sukoon. There's no sukoon that's written down, but we pronounce it as if there was a sukoon. For example, in the Quran, this is with Fatiha, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. It's mustaqima. There's a fatha there. But we don't pronounce that fatha when we stop. So we have this verse from the Quran, and I want to highlight something based on the script that is used in the famous Saudi print of the Quran. So with this particular script, it uses this sign for sukoon. So it says qul. That's a command. It means to say. Qul. So it's written like that. Then we have here another sukoon, and there's another sukoon there. Now, one thing to note, if we go a bit further on, we find this. Remember we said that sukoon can also be represented by this sign here, by this, it's like a circle. This circle in the Mus'haf is not a sukoon. It doesn't represent a sukoon. And you actually find two types of these circles. One of them is like a normal circle, and one of them is more like a long circle, like that. Both of these are used in the Mus'haf to represent tajweed rules. Now, outside of the Quran, you'll find that a sukoon can be represented by an O. So inshallah, in this lesson, we're going to be speaking about the long vowel. In Arabic, it's called med, which also means elongation. Now, in English, we have the following words. The word bad. Notice the elongation of the A sound. We don't say bed, we say bad. Similarly, we have the word feet. We don't say fit, we say feet. Is that elongation of the E sound. And also the word food. So we don't say food, we say food. So there's the elongation of the U sound, food, not food. Now, if I transliterate this into Arabic, I get the following. So we have bad, feet, and food. In the first example, bad, it's the A sound that's being elongated. And that's denoted by this fatha here, which has the A sound, followed by the alif. And that's where we get the A sound, the elongation there, the long vowel. Similarly, here we have a kasra, and then following it is the ya. So it's a E sound. And finally, we have here a Dhamma, followed by the wow. So it's a U sound. So we'll come to know actually that the long vowels are created in these three following ways, which are having a fatha, followed by the alif, a kasra, followed by a ya, and a dhamma, followed by a waw. So they represent the three long vowels. So inshallah, we'll go through some words and to see how the long vowels are pronounced. So here are some words. First one here is qala. Notice the elongation of the A sound. Qala. Not qala, qala. So we have the fatha on the qaf, followed by the alif. Next word is jihad. So we have here ji, that's the first syllable, and then had, jihad. So you notice here we have a fatha on the ha, followed by the alif, and that gives the elongation of the A sound. Next word, Ibrahim. So here, ra. Notice here the ra, fatha, followed by the alif. Once again, it's a long vowel. Ibra. Not ibra. Ibra. Ibra, and then him. Ibrahim. Here the ha has a kasra, followed by the ya. So here there's the elongation of the E sound. It's he. Him. Ibrahim. Similarly, here we have Kareem. Now, Kareem is actually a adjective that means one who's generous. So here we have the ra, kasra, followed by the ya. This is the ya here. So Kareem, not Karim. Next word, maghdoob. So maghdoob here has a dhamma on the dad, followed by the wow. So it's an elongation sound. So it's a oo sound. So it's maghdoob. And finally, here, qubur. Qubur. So there's the oo sound again. They have a ba with the Dhamma followed by the vowel. So you can see how the long vowel is formed there. Now there is another mad, which is when two hamzas come together. But I actually thought that it would be more appropriate to mention that I want to get to the introduction to grammar, Arabic grammar. Now, just finally, I want to translate these words. So we have qala means he said. Jihad denotes the action of struggling and exerting effort. Ibrahim is the Arabic name for Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him. And as we said, Kareem means one who's generous. Maghdub denotes somebody who is the object of anger. So one who anger is directed towards. And finally, we have the word qubur. Qubur is the plural of the word qabr, which means grave. So qubur means graves. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillah. So this lesson, we're going to speak about the double letter. When we have two letters that are the same, joined together. Now, this joining is called shaddah, and it means to join with strength. So, if we take the word shaddah, what Arabs use for the sign of shaddah is the following. It's just that part of the word shaddah, which is that. So, if we want to double this letter, what we do is we add the shaddah. That's it there. Now, a point to note is that the shaddah will always have a vowel mark accompanied with it. Either the fatha, the dhamma, or the kasra. So, for example, we have here three scenes with a shaddah and the three different harakat. So, as you can see, the shaddah with a dhamma, the shaddah with a kasra, and the shaddah with a fatha. One point, the kasra here is usually written under the shaddah, or it can actually be written underneath the letter itself. So the actual kasra can go down here as well. But the shaddah stays there. The shaddah will never be on the bottom. Another point is the shaddah can go on any letter, except for the hamza or the alif. So any other letter can accept a shaddah. Now let's dissect the shaddah on top of these layers. So we said that the shaddah represents a doubling of the letter. So here, there's two scenes because the shaddah is there. So there's one scene followed by another scene. Now the first scene will always have a sukoon. And then the second scene will have the actual harakah. Now let's put, for example, a letter before it, because we know that a word cannot start with a sukoon. You can't have a letter with a sukoon starting off a word. So let's put the ra, for example. So to pronounce this, we would say resu, resu. Notice how I give the double letter. Resu, resu. Now similarly, this is two scenes as well. The sukoon is on the first, followed by the kasra on the second. So if we put the ra once again, it would pronounce as rassi, rassi. Notice how I give emphasis to this scene. It's the doubling of the letter. Not rasi, rassi. And similarly, the scene with the shadda and fatha is a scene, another scene. There's a sukoon there, and there's a fatha there. So put the ra, for example. Actually, let's change the letter. Let's put the meme. So the meme would be joined to it, and a fatha here. And I assumed that these were fathas as well with the ra as well. So that's why it was rassi and rasu. So here it's massa. This is actually a verb. Massa means to touch. Now, how this verb is actually written is the following. It's a meme followed by a sin. And there's a shaddah. And it's massa. So a double letter will not be represented in this way. It will be done in this particular way, with the shaddah. Now, a letter that has a shaddah can never start a sentence, as we said. That's why I put a letter that has a haraka on it. So let's put the fathas on those. So notice I put those huruf, those letters, in front. Because there's no word that starts with a sin, with a sukoon, or any letter that has a sukoon. Let's look at some words with the shaddah. So here we have 3 words, actually 4 words, because iyaka actually is made up of 2 different words, with a particle and a pronoun. So how do we pronounce this? Iyaka. Notice the ya gets a double vowel because of the shaddah there. Iyaka. It's not iyaka. Iyaka. Also here, al-hajju. It's not al-hajju, it's al-hajju. And here, rabbi. So it's alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. There's a shaddah there. It's not rabbi. So if I want to dissect this, it would be the ra followed by 2 bas. There's a fatha there. The first ba takes a sukoon. And the second takes a kasra. So it's rabbi. So you notice actually that a shaddah will always give a new syllable to the word, because the new syllable starts here. It's in between the first and the second letter that has the shaddah. So that's briefly about the shaddah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now this is a pronunciation exercise from what we learned so far. So the first one is, it's banu. Banu. Next one is bu and nu. So it's bunu. Next one we see has a long vowel. So it's bana. Not bana, bana. Next one, there's sukoon on the vowel, so it's bawna. Bawna. Next one is a long vowel as well. It's the u sound, so it's boona. Boona. Then next is bayna. Then we have bina. This is a long vowel. Bina. And finally, it's bayyana. So there's a shaddah there. So it can actually be written as follows. The ba, then the ya, followed by another ya, and then finally the noon. So, bay, ya, na. So with the shaddah, there's a double letter. The first letter has a sukoon, and the second has the haraka that it has, which is here the fatha. So, bayyana. Let's go to the 5 words below. We'll pronounce it and give you the meaning. So the first word is fi. So you notice there's the elongation, the long vowel. Fi means in, and that in could either be physical or abstract. So if we say fil bayt, in the house, or it could be abstract. For example, if I say fi ra'yi, which means in my opinion. Okay, next we have, and notice here the long vowel as well, rana. And rana is a verb which means to cover in dirt or rust. Next word is kayfa. Kayfa. Kayfa means how. So for example, if we meet somebody and say, kayfa haluka, how are you? Next word, huda. Now this is not actually a ya, it's an alif. It's called an alif maqsura, and it's exactly like an alif, the way it's pronounced. It's like a ya, without the 2 dots. So we say huda. There's the elongation as well, because the fatha followed by an alif. If this wasn't there, it will be huda. But huda with the alif. Finally, we have the verb kasra, which means to smash something into many pieces. It's an intensive form. With verbs, when we have the shaddah, the verb involves intensity. And you can actually feel it the way it's pronounced. Kasra instead of kasara. So once again, there's the kaf, followed by two scenes, and then the ra. So kas, sukoon, sara. Kasara, not kasara. So it's very important with the shaddah to give it the double sound. And sometimes people might be a bit too hasty and not give that double letter. My best advice to you is maybe go through the Quran and try to read it and have, for example, a recording of it, a clear recording, and see if you pronounce it exactly the same way. I must warn you, there are many rules that might cause you to be a bit confused. And you might ask, why is it recited in this way? It should be this way. But usually, most words in the Quran will be recited the way that they are written. So in this lesson, we're going to speak about the open and closed tat. So this is the open tat, and this is the closed tat. So it's quite obvious why they call that, because of their shape. Now there's some differences. The first one is in which words they are found. So the open tat is used anywhere, meaning in any position of the word, and in any word. So either in the noun, or a verb, or a particle. So it's not restricted to any type of word in Arabic language. While the tat marbuta, the closed tat, only occurs at the end of a word and only in nouns. So let's look at some examples of this, inshallah. So here we have the word bait, baytun. This is the Tanween, and this is an open tat. We also have the word, for example, tamrun, which means dates. So notice here the open tat at the beginning of a word. We also have, for example, a verb here, mata, which means he died. And tat can also occur alone as a particle. And one of its usages is particle of swearing an oath. Now with the ta marbuta, the closed tat, we have the following words. So you notice here the ta marbuta at the end of the word. And this is one thing about the ta marbuta. The way it's written is exactly the same as the ha. So if you remember, the ha can be written in two ways. At the end, if, for example, it doesn't join to the second last letter, it will be written on its own like this. Or if it's connected to the second last letter, it's written like this. Now the difference between the ha and the ta marbuta is just the two dots at the top. So they're both ta marbutas now. Now the ha also has the medial form. If you remember the medial form, which is that. Now we said that the ta marbuta can never be in the middle of a word. It's always at the end. So this, you won't find a ta marbuta like that. That doesn't occur. Here the word is Medina and Khadija. Notice one thing, I didn't mention the ta. I actually pronounced the ta marbuta as a ha. Medina, Khadija. Now if I stop on the ta marbuta, it's actually pronounced as a ha in both cases. So here Medina means a city, and Khadija is a name of a female. The ta marbuta also is a sign of femininity. So you find this ta marbuta in a number of female words. So that's another point about the ta marbuta. And thirdly, if you actually pronounce the last letter with the harakah, so for example, say when say Khadija tu. Notice Khadija tu. We pronounce the ta. If we stop at the ta, Khadija, it's a ha. Medina or Madinatun. if we put the Tanween. Just a point there, female names don't get a Tanween. They only get one Dhamma or one Fatha. They don't take a Kasra. But we'll speak about this, inshallah, later on. You don't need to know that at this stage. So the complete lesson, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bismillah. Okay, in this lesson, we're going to speak about Tanween. Now what Tanween is, it's the double Fatha, the double Kasra, or the double Dhamma at the end of a word. And in fact, what Tanween is the addition of a Noon sound, the letter Noon. In English, it's also called Nunation. So you find that in some English books. And that's used synonymously with Tanween. Now, just a point with how it's written. With the Fatha and Kasra, it's pretty straightforward. You just put one on top of the other. With the Dhamma, the two Dhammas, it could be written as this. So you have two Dhammas together. It could also be written as the following mark. You'll find this in some scripts, as well as you have one Dhamma and that. So that's another way that could be written. So all these represent two Dhammas together. Now, here we have the word qalam. Qalam means pen. Now, for example, if we put one Dhamma, it will be qalamu. If we put two Dhammas, it will be pronounced as qalamun. Qalamun. So notice the Noon sound at the end. It's pronounced as the following. It's the Dhamma at the end, followed by, let's take this off, because we're going to put it Noon at the end. A Noon. With a sukoon. So qalamun. That's how it's pronounced, and this is how it's written. So you never write a Tanween like this. Now, what does Tanween indicate? The main thing it indicates is indefiniteness. So here, qalamun would be a pen. So here we have the word rajul, which means man. Now, if we want to say a man, we'd put Tanween. Either the two Dhammas, the two Fathas, or the two Kasras. So either rajulun, rajulan, or rajulin. They all indicate a man. So the main usage of Tanween is indefiniteness. So it's giving the sound of a Noon with a sukoon at the end of the word. Now let's go through some words with Tanween. Okay, you have these four words. So the first one is sarirun. So you see the Tanween here. Next one is mawzatun. Third one, ajalatun. And lastly, ta'iratun. So it's the sound at the end. And we can also put the two fathas and the two kasras also. So for example, here sarir could be, let's take this off, it could be sariran or saririn. Now one thing to note, with the two fathas, in most words, you'd put an extra alif. So let's just write sarir out. It'll be sariran. So this alif is put with the two fathas only. The two dhammas and the two kasras don't get this. There's an exception. For example, the ta marbuta. See these three words, they all end in a ta marbuta, the closed ta. So this is a ta, but it's a closed ta, as opposed to the open ta. When a word ends with ta marbuta, even when it gets two fathas, it doesn't have an alif. So for example, ajalatun, let's write it, it'll be ajala 10. Mawzatun, if we want to make it two fathas, would be موزة 10. Now, another point to note, most masculine proper nouns will have a tanween, yet they are still definite. So any proper name, for example, Muhammad, Muhammadun, Muhammadan, Muhammadin. So they have tanween, but they're definite. With all other nouns, the tanween will indicate indefiniteness. Finally, just the meanings of these words. So sarir with the tanween is a bed. So mawzatun is a banana. Ajalatun is a bicycle. And ta'iratun is a plane. That completes the lesson. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, inshallah, we're going to speak about definiteness. So we have in front of us the word bait, baytun. So you see the tanween, which indicates indefiniteness. So baytun is a house. Now to make something definite, what we do is we add an alif and lam in front of the word, as you can see there. And we take one of the dhammas away. So instead of the tanween, we have a single dhamma. And similarly, if there was, for example, say, tanween with 2 fathas, then when we make it definite, there will be 1 fatha. And similarly, 1 kasra, if there was. So, al-baytu, the house, a specific house. So the process to make it definite is to add the alif and lam and to remove the tanween. Now, what is the alif lam? Now, in fact, I said to you the alif and lam. It's not an alif. This is actually a hamzatul wasl. So we give it the sign of hamzatul wasl. And the lam has sukoon on it. Now, knowing that this is a hamzatul wasl, we know that with hamzatul wasl, if it starts off a sentence, it's pronounced. So, al-baytu. But if there's something before it, let's say a vowel, what happens? It's wal-baytu. So this is not pronounced because it's in the middle of a sentence. Now, for example, in the Quran, we have this in Surah Al-Quraysh. And it says, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا. And here is al-bayt. Now, there's a kasra there, and there's the al. So it's definite. And here, al-bayt refers to Baytullah, the house of Allah, the Kaaba. Now, here we have the word هذا. So, هذا and al-bayt. So, how do we pronounce it? It's هذا البيت. So, it's not هذا al-bayt. You don't pronounce this hamzat al-wasl here. So, you go from this alif to this lam. هذا البيت. If it started a sentence, it would be al-bayt. Okay, let's continue on. Now, an important point is that proper nouns are all definite. Proper nouns, as in names of people, of places, of countries, and so on. Now, in front of us, we have 5 proper names. The first name we have is Muhammad. You notice at the end of it is the tanween, Muhammadun. Even though it has a tanween, it's still definite. And that's the same with, for example, Zaid. It's Zaidun. Tanween as well. They're both masculine names. So with proper nouns, a tanween does not indicate indefiniteness. That's a rule there. Then we have the name Zainabu. Notice here, there's only 1 dhamma. There's no tanween. Now, the question is, why doesn't it have tanween? That's because feminine names actually don't take a tanween. They only have 1 dhamma. And similarly with the name Mecca, the holy city of Mecca, it's actually a feminine name. And it only takes 1 dhamma. Now the point is with feminine proper nouns, so it should be feminine proper nouns, they don't accept tanween, with rare exceptions. So there are exceptions to these rules, and we're just learning the basic rule. And all the exceptions will be taught later on as you progress in your studies, inshallah. And finally, we have al-Iraq. Notice a few things. There's the al here. And there's the Dhamma. Now, there are a few things to note about this. So, Iraq is the country, Iraq, and that's how it's written in Arabic, Al-Iraq. This Alif Lam, is not a lam of definiteness. Because as we said, proper nouns are always definite. So it's not definite by the fact that it has this al. It's already definite. It's the name of a country. So this al is actually part of this word. You won't find the name Iraq. It's always accompanied with this al. And some proper nouns actually have this al joined to it. For example, we have the name Al-Abbas. Not Abbas, Al-Abbas, which is a masculine name. This is an extra al, which occurs in some proper nouns. And it's not the al that to make a word definite like al-bayt. Now, just finally, I want to mention this point, is with the al of definiteness, that the hamz al-wasl is always pronounced with a fatha. Not a kasra and not a dhamma. So it's always al-bayt, al-qamar, and so on. It's never ul, it's never il. It's always al. And like this lesson, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bismillah. Now, in this lesson, we're going to speak about the division of letters as sun letters and moon letters. Huruf shamsiyya and huruf qamariyya. Now, the letters I have that look like a moon, these letters are actually the moon letters. While the ones that have the sun on them are the sun letters. Now, why do we have this division? To demonstrate this, here we have the word ash-shams and al-qamar. The sun and the moon. That's what they mean. And this is the L of definiteness that we spoke about in the previous lesson. Now, when you add al to these, you'll notice a few things. Let's first of all start with al-qamar. How do we pronounce this? It's al-qamar. So al-qamar. So there's the sukoon there on top of the lam. And it's al-qamar. There's no issues with that. But when we come to ash-shams, there's something that's happening. And this has to do with the articulation point of the lam and the letter following it, which here is the sheen. And to actually find out the articulation point, have a hamza with a fatha followed by the lam. So we say al, with a titha, al. And do the same thing with the sheen. Ash. The actual points of articulation of the lam and the sheen are very close to each other. And because they're very close, what happens is this lam is not pronounced. And what happens instead is the lam is pronounced as a sheen. So there's actually a shaddah here. So it's ash-shams, not al-shams. Because notice when you say al-shams, it's not smooth. Rather than ash-shams, which flows and is nicer to hear. However, with al-qamar, there's no issues with that. And that's because the articulation point of the lam and the qaf are far apart. So the al is where the teeth and the tongue come together, and the qaf, aq, comes from the throat, which is far from the articulation point of the lam. And because of this distance, it's much smoother to say it, because you're going from one articulation point to one that's further down. So it's al-qamar. However, with lam and the sheen, the lam is here and the sheen is right next to it. Al-shams. Al-shams. It's actually hard on the tongue to say. And then what that means is that these sun letters, the ta, the tha, dal, the ra, zay, and so on, if they come as the first letter of the word, after the L is being added, there'll be a shaddah on the letter, and the lam will not be pronounced. And similarly, for example, the alif, ba, jim, ha, kha, and so on, if they actually come after the L of definiteness, they're always pronounced. And the lam is also pronounced as well, with sukoon. Now let's see these words in the Quran. So this is in Surah Ash-Shams, and it says, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. So notice, وَالشَّمْس. This is al of definiteness. This hamzat al-wasl, it's not pronounced because there's something before it. Similarly, this lam is not pronounced either because, as we said, this is from the sun letters and there's a shaddah there. So it's wash-shams. Then we have wal-qamari idha talaha. Wal-qamar. So you notice the lam here has a sukoon on it. And the mushaf, when the lam is not pronounced, it doesn't have any sign on it. It's written, but there's no sukoon. But here it's wal-qamari idha talaha. So the qaf is from huruf al-qamariyah. Now let's take examples of this, inshallah. Here we have the moon letters, and here we have the sun letters. And we have here al-abu, the father. Notice here al-abu, it's pronounced. Al-babu, the door. Al-jannah, al-himar, al-khubz, and so on. So you see how the lam has the sukoon and it's pronounced in all cases. The huruf shamsiyah, notice here, we have at-tajiru. At-tajiru, there's a shaddah there. Al-thawb, the garment. Ad-deek, the rooster. Al-dhahab, the gold. Ar-rajul, the man, and so on. Now, it's good to memorize which letters are the moon letters and which are the sun. It will help initially, but then later on, it will become second nature to you. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we'll be showing you how to access your free course. So here we have 2 courses available. We go to Students. Here, we need to create a new account. Now, there are 3 ways to create an account. The traditional way of putting your name, email, and password. You can also do it through Facebook and Google. So we're doing it the normal way. Let's create the account. You'll be taken back to the home page now. Now, how do we know that we're logged in? It will say this on the top left-hand side. If we go here to this icon here, we click on it, and here is our details, and then My Courses. And as you'll see, these are the courses at our institute, and you'll notice a lock on them. That's because we have no access to them at this stage. We can also access courses in Course Access. It's the same courses, and it says here, purchase to unlock course. And that signifies that we have no access to them. These are the 2 courses that are free. These are the course codes that we'll be using. And in this demonstration, we're going to be unlocking this course here. So what we do is, we go to purchase to unlock course. We're taken to this page where we're given here to pay by PayPal, more payment options. What we'll do is we'll just add this to the cart and then check out. Now, when we check out, we're given this page. This is a payment page. Over here, you'll see your registered email. And here it has a price. But we want to get this course for free because it's for free. So what we do is we put the discount code and we apply it. And that goes down to 0. So then what we need to do is just simply put in our address. Let's do it here. And then you go complete order. Thank you. Now, how do we get access? It's quite simple. Access student area takes you to the student access page. If we go there, you notice here, the lock is gone. So if we go inside it, we can now access the course. We can choose which lesson that we want to go through. We have books also to download and the different lessons. There's a progress bar as you progress, and you go back and do the same process with this and use this code. Now, if you're interested in studying further, then you'll need to purchase the other courses. And we do have lifetime access and 1 year access. Inshallah, you benefit from these courses. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.